I recently won a 60-man tournament undefeated with Dinomorphia. Here's my deck list and some thoughts on the deck. Obviously I'm playing 3 Teresia. Teresia is by far the best Dinomorphia monster. When it's summoned, it can set a Dinomorphia trap from the deck, and if it's destroyed, it can banish a trap from the graveyard to special summon another level 4 Dinomorphia from the grave. Then the other main deck Dinomorphia name, we are playing 2 Diplos. Diplos can, when summoned, send any Dinomorphia card from the deck to the grave. And then if our life points are lower than 2k, we can inflict 500 damage to our opponent. Sometimes you can summon both of these back in the same chain and then chain block the Diplos to burn with the Diplos for game. This comes up surprisingly often. And if this is destroyed, it can also banish a trap from the graveyard to summon Teresia from the grave. Then I'm playing 2 Wannabe. Wannabe I am a bit torn about, because Wannabe has to send itself to the graveyard in the end phase, and then you can excavate cards off the top of your deck up to the number of unused spell and trap zones your opponent controls. There are some huge upsides about this and some huge downsides about this. This can then set an excavated trap to your side of the field, but you have to send it to the graveyard during the end phase of the next turn. This is insane because it can effectively search stuff like Skill Drain or Dinomorphia Frenzy, but the problem is you have to send it to the graveyard during the end phase of the next turn. It's only really a problem if you go for a continuous trap, and you have to send this to the graveyard, so it does not work under Shifter. It's also a hard once per turn, but it's just really, really good. The only times when it's not good is if you play versus Yugioh, for example, or Centurion, and they place very many things in the spell trap zone, and you are going second. Then it sometimes really doesn't work too well, but if you go first, it's always just Pot of Duality effectively for 5. It's really, really good. Then, for the Dinomorphia traps, we are playing 3 Frenzy. This is insane, I might say. It can use fusion materials from the main deck in extra decks, so it's a 1-card Rexterm without using any monster effects. If you know that your opponent is on Talons, sometimes you just go straight into Rexterm with this, but most of the time you go for a Kentrigina, and then Kentrigina can copy the effect of Frenzy just for an additional buddy on field. Then I am on 3 Domain. This can fusion summon by using materials from the deck and or hand or field, and then you can just copy this again with a Kentrigina and then use the Kentrigina on field and a material on deck to go into a Rexterm. So this is a 1-card Rexterm as well. All of the Dinomorphia traps share the effect that if they want to be activated, you have to pay half your life points. The whole gimmick of the deck is that you can sit on a Rexterm with like 16 life points and your opponent can't do anything. It's really funny that in a game where the original goal is to reduce your opponent's life points, you can play with a deck where you reduce your own life points. It's really, really fun. Then I'm on 2 Alert. Alert is nice because this can summon back up to 2 Dinomorphia monsters from your graveyard whose combined level is 8 or less. So this can go for Teresia and Diplos, this can go for a Rexterm, if they kaiju'd your Rexterm, for example. It's just really, really good in the grind game. It's great that you can sometimes just Teresia into this to get 2 materials on board. It locks you into only summoning Dinomorphia monsters after you resolved it, but you can just use this in your opponent's end phase if you wanted to. It's a great card, and you should always play this at 2, not just because you can trap trick into it then. Then on 1 Brute. Brute is removal, and you can just copy this again with Kentrigina as well. For the spells, I am on 3 Pot of Duality. Duality is neat, but it is a hard once per turn, and it locks you out of using Typhon if you go second. But you kind of still have to play 3. Before, I played 3 Prosp and 2 Duality, but now you kind of have to play 3 Duality and 1 Prosp. Prosp is still a really, really good card, and if you have Wannabe, Prosp, and Duality, you can look at the top 5, top 6, and top 3 cards of your deck. So effectively, you look at the top 14 cards of your deck and choose 3 to add to your hand, essentially. Because Wannabe just puts the other cards that it excavates to the bottom, Prosp puts to the bottom, and then Duality shuffles. But you can just Wannabe, Prosp, Duality if you have it. For the counter traps, we are playing 3 Dinomorphia Intact. This is a monster negate, which is very handy, and it has the additional effect that you can't get OTK'd, pretty much. It says that if it resolves, every battle damage you take this turn becomes half your life points. So once you only resolve this, you can't get OTK'd by Tenpai. Pretty nice. And it's just great because it covers monsters everywhere. It's not just monsters on field. It's slightly worse than Solemn Strike because you like can't negate summons with it, for example. But it's just an insane card and it's searchable, and you can banish it from the graveyard so that you don't take battle damage. It's really, really nice. One Sonic, this is a spell trap negate, but it not just has the effect that you have to pay half your life points, it also requires you to destroy a Dinomorphia monster you control. But most of the time you're just gonna set this with Teresia anyway, so you get a Teresia to destroy. I chose to play Sonic in main because before I was playing Sonic inside, but it's nice to have that one-off Sonic that you can search. So if you already have combo, if you have like a Frenzy, a Monster Negate, and the Teresia, you're gonna use the Teresia to go for a Sonic, because then you can play around Droplet, around Talents, around Super Poly, so many things you can play around this with this. And this format you kind of need it because there are so many board breakers going around. So Sonic and Maindeck is definitely the way to go. Then I'm on 3 Solemn Judgment. Pretty self-explanatory, but Solemn Judgment is slightly worse than the other counter traps because going second, it doesn't do much. Like, sure, it still hits the board breakers, but it doesn't do quite much because most of the time people still just disrespect back row decks, so they don't run that many board breakers, and many outs to the Rexterm are monster effects, and Solemn Judgment doesn't do anything against that. It's nice that this can negate the summon of a Chaos Angel, for example, though, or sometimes you can just hit your opponent at that choke point with a Solemn Judgment, even if they don't want to board break you, and it's definitely required in the main, but I just feel like it's a little bit worse than Solemn Strike, for example. It just doesn't do as much if you go second. So when I go second, I just always side out the Solemn Judgment, because Strike is still good. If they get a monster on field, I can flip Strike to negate and destroy that monster. Judgment, not as much. Like, Iron Thunder still does pretty much the job of Strike and Judgment going second. It negates and destroys anything on field, but if they are smart, they can put their stuff in the Rexterm column, because this negates and destroys, and then it destroys all cards in the negated cards column. So if you play versus Dinomorphia, always put your cards in the Rexterm column, so that if they have an Iron Thunder, they are forced to destroy their own Rexterm. It's really cool though, it pays half the life points, it negates and destroys, it's a counter trap so they can't respond to it. It's a really, really good card. And then, the kind of tech choice that I'm playing, I'm main decking 3 Dark Bribe. This came in so clutch. I negated D-barriers with this, I negated droplets with this in game 1. Otherwise, like, you could play this in the side if you wanted to, but in the main, it's just chef's kiss. This came in so, so good. Like, people in game 1 were just, for some reason, opening their like D-barriers versus me. I have no idea. Like, a Gimmick Puppet player, for example. He just main decks D-barrier and hard drew into it. Then I went to Frenzy. I got no Solemn Judgment, but I do have a Dark Bribe and can negate his D-barrier. It was so nice. And finally, for the kind of one-offs and tech choices, board breaker, e-cards, I am playing a Skill Drain because Kentragina has 4000 attack under Skill Drain. Try to out Kentragina under Skill Drain. Sometimes your opponent just wants to use a monster on the field to negate a Frenzy. You change Skill Drain. And Kentragina is one of the biggest monsters you usually see. The only times when you have bigger monsters are like in the Drytron matchup, for example, because the dad is on 5k, but otherwise there's not really many decks that put up a monster with more than 4k. So this plus Kentragina is effectively a Rexterm, or sometimes even a better Rexterm. Then I'm on 1 Rivalry, because Rivalry oftentimes breaks boards really, really well. And if my opponent has 5 pieces of interruption on board, they most of the time don't have a trap interruption or a trap negate, so I can just, in the draw phase, flip a Rivalry. They are forced to get rid of 4 of the interruptions, and then I can use my Frenzy. And if they still have an interruption for the Frenzy, I can like use the 1 counter trap that I have on that card. So this is just really, really good to get rid of interruptions, stop my opponent from playing, and it prevents you from getting Lava Golem, because people already know that I'm playing Dinomorphia, so They play Lava Golem against me, but with this you can't get Lava Golemed. And I've had people show me after the games that they have 3 Lava Golems in their hand, but they told me, oh, Alex, I couldn't out your rivalry, but I had the Lava Golem, but I couldn't give it to you. And I'm just like, sorry, but that's what rivalry is there for. And finally, I'm playing 2 Ferret Flames. This is good in many cases. It breaks boards, it sometimes protects you if your opponent wants to swing. It's really, really good, and it's one of the few outs that you have against Yugioh if you play versus them and you don't have the Zark package. And it's pretty nice because you can use Rexterm to make the Yugioh monsters gain attack. Then you can halve your life points with like any of the cards that halve your life points. And then you can use Ferret Flames to shuffle all of the monsters back. And then you can try to swing for game. Because otherwise, Yugioh is a kind of weird matchup. And for the last card, the 41st card in the main deck, I am playing a Trap Trick. Trap Trick can just get you Frenzy, Realm, Ferret Flames. It can get you everything. But Trap Trick, it's still... The downside of Trap Trick is kind of harsh. So I don't like it as much, but it's nice as a last resort. And because you play Wannabe as well, you can dig into your deck, you can easier see the Trap Trick. It's nice to just have it there. And I like 41 cards. In the extra deck, we are playing the boy Rexterm. Rexterm is an insane boss monster. He just says that cards or monsters on the field cannot activate their effects. So sometimes my opponents are asking me, well, I can surely still Pancratops the Rexterm. No, you can't. You just can't. You cannot activate it. Rexterm also floats into a 6 or lower Dinomorphia if it's destroyed. He can modulate attack by halving your life points. He's just really, really, really good. Then 2, Kentragina. Kentragina, you could play at 3. Wouldn't hold it against you. She's good. She's really good. She can copy a normal Dinomorphia trap in your graveyard, so you can easier get many buddies on board. You can copy Brood, for example, to get multiple removals with her. She's just a really, really good card. But if you want to go for Kentragina and then Rexterm, be sure to always use Stealth Burgier with Frenzy first, because otherwise they could, like, if you Frenzy and you Frenzy into Kentragina and then Kentragina copy Frenzy to go for another Rexterm, they could called by the Kentragina in graveyard, so you always send Stealth Burgier to the graveyard first, so they can't call it by you. Then 1 Chaos Angel, because you can make Chaos Angel with Kentragina and a Teresia or Diplos, for example. Chaos Angel is just really good for the banish. Chaos Angel is a nice monster. He's a big body. He helps you to use useless monsters to make something new. He's really, really good. Then 1 SP Little Knight, because you can make Dugares with, for example, the 2 Dinomorphias that you summoned back with Alert. Then use Dugares, detach 2, summon back a Teresia, Teresia F, set 1 more. It's just really cool. Like, Teresia by itself can do so many things. You can go for Teresia, then Teresia can set you, like, if you have an Alert, you use Alert, summon a Teresia and a Diplos. Then Teresia can set you another Alert. Then you can use that Alert, like summon 2 more. You can use these to make a copy of Dugares. Dugares can then detach a material to summon back the Teresia from the graveyard to get another set. And then you can use the Teresia and the Dugares to make an SP to get a banish as well. It's just great, Dugares and SP. It's so good. Then 1 Castel, because Castel sometimes outs problematic cards, because this deck sometimes struggles against monsters that can't be destroyed by battle, for example. It's a bit silly, but Castel is there to be a good removal card that doesn't need a discard or something. You can just make it with 2 level 4s. 1 Lagia, because Lagia is nice to negate board breakers or prevent the summon of Chaos Angels. This is the thing where I most use this for. 1 Baguska, this never came up. 1 Typhon, this comes up a whole lot if you go second, because normal summon Teresia, they like Veiler Teresia or something, and you just make a Typhon with it. And 1 Zeus, this I think came up once, but it's just nice to be another piece of removal, because this deck sometimes struggles against cards that can't be like destroyed by battle. It's really, really weird. In the side deck, I'm playing 3 Sphere Mode because you only have 1 normal summon you want to use anyway, Terazia. So you can just play 3 Sphere Mode if you go second. 3 D-Shifter, I decided against main decking this because I thought there's a whole lot of Tenpai anyway, and if they're gonna D-Shifter me, I don't want to have another D-Shifter in my hand. So D-Shifter I only side in against decks where I really know it hurts, and I expected a ton of Tenpai, which I got. So yeah, D-Shifter inside is the best. Then 3 Retaliating Sea. This is essentially 3 more copies of D-Shifter, and it's a level 4 monster on field, so you can technically do the rank 4 plays. If you go second, then 1 Harpy's Feather Duster, 2 Lightning Storms against those back row decks, 1 Anti-Spell Fragrance because we don't like Runic and it's just nice to prevent board breakers from being activated, and 2 Power Sink Stone because you can get a Kentrogina on field, for example, then Kentrogina effect, and you already use the monster effect, and then you have a Power Sink Stone on board as well, so you are still safe even if they Dark Brood or no more you. Yeah, my matchups were interesting, I'll say that. There were 6 rounds, I won 5 of them and had 1 draw. In round 1 I played versus Exodia, a pretty bad matchup for Dinomorphia, but I'll be honest, I think the pilot didn't pilot the best of lists. Then I played versus Tenpai, 2-1. One of the games I lost against Kawaii Kaimeru Dragon because all of these are dark. So it's kind of hard to get rid of Kawaii Kaimeru Dragon. There are some ways, but if you didn't open them, it's just GG pretty much. But then I had, in game 3 versus him, I had Frenzy, Judgment, Judgment, Strike, Strike. And then my top decks were like Dark Bribe, Dark Bribe. He got completely obliterated. Then I played versus Tenpai, got a draw, because the guy was playing 3 of Royal Decree in his side. I needed some time to out the Royal Decree. It was pretty weird. I did the Dogaris into SP play. Worked out fine, but Royal Decree in this side, it took some time. Then I conceded a winnable game 2 because I thought, maybe I can get him in game 3, but this is way too grindy. And in the end, we just got a draw. And then I played versus Asamina White Forest Toy Box. Was over pretty quickly. Like game 1, I just did my combo. Game 2, I did Retaliating Sea, and he couldn't do much. Then versus Gimmick Puppet FTK, game 1, I set up my board, and like, oh no, I got dropleted. I didn't get de-barriered by him. I got dropleted by him, negated it with the Dark Bribe. That's where the Dark Bribe came in really clutch. And game 2, I negated a D-barrier. That was it. Like, it's just really, really good. Both of those games, Dark Bribe came in clutch so hard. So, Dark Bribe, I've slept on it for some time, but I think you can main deck in Dinomorphia. It's not a bad choice. And then in round 6, I again played versus Tenpai and 2-0'd him. So, I played 2-0 versus Exodia, 2-1 versus Tenpai, 1-1 versus Tenpai, 2-0 versus Asamina White Forest Toy Box, 2-0 versus Gimmick Puppet, and 2-0 versus Tenpai. I was very happy that I won the 60-man tournament in first place. I had a ton of people who came up to me after the tournament and said, "Oh, Alex, can I have your deck list?" And I was super glad to give it out, because Dinomorphia is just such a cool deck. If you love Dinomorphia as much as I do, or if you are interested in playing Dinomorphia as much as I was before I picked up the deck, pick it up. It's cheap, it's good. Currently, it doesn't have the best matchup versus Fire King Snake Eye, but yeah, it in most formats it's still pretty good, especially in hand trap formats. Anyway, I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for sticking through the video. I hope to inspire you with this deck list, because it's just so fun to sit on Rexterm and 4 set Solemns. And I'll see you in the next video. Until then, see ya.